Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with George, David, and Ori, professional film, animation, and visual effects artists that have established themselves in the board game industry, creating cinematics, animation, and effects for Kickstarter videos. Together, they've created a new YouTube channel where they review and react to Kickstarter videos discussing the behind the scenes and how they come together. Gentlemen, welcome to the Binge. How you doing? Glad to have you.
Thanks for having
us.
Thanks
for having us. Woo!
We made
Thanks
it
for
happen. No problem. So I actually reached out to you guys pretty much as soon as I saw your first video. I'm like, this is bang. This is like right in the sweet spot of what we love to cover on the Binge. You guys were very gracious to agree to come on this podcast, so I do appreciate it, especially since it's pretty late for some of you. Why don't we start off by introducing ourselves and talk about your companies that you're coming from, and then we'll get into the actual new YouTube channel in a second. So let's start off. Ori, can you tell us who you are, your company, and kind of where you're talking to us from?
So first of all, thanks a lot, James. I mean, it's amazing the reception we got for those two first episodes, and you reaching out to us was like, yeah, it was just fun being knowing that we managed to make something that resonated with people. I'm Ori. I run Kagan Productions, and I sort of started this business around 3 years ago when I became a freelancer. I'm an editor/animator for about 7 years, but freelancing for about 4 years, and 3 years I sort of decided to, let's take board games and let's take animation and put them together. After seeing all sort of Kickstarter videos, I realized this is a really good place for me to try to find my niche. And I'm very happy to say that in the past half year, I managed to do this full time, so I don't need to work with high-tech companies or with small businesses, just board games for me. So I'm very, very happy and grateful for that.
And you're joining us from where?
I'm from Israel. So
what time is
it's 1 a.m. for me. The kids are asleep. Everything's quiet now. So it's the perfect time. It's when I work. I'm a night owl. So I'm 100% right now.
And for people who are watching us live, I've got it hovered the screen right now on your website. I love your logo. So the Kagan Productions, and you actually got a picture of a duck instead of the Productions, which I think is just awesome.
Well, like I said, I'm a dad, so I'm allowed to make puns. So.
Dad jokes always wanted, right? David, why don't you tell us who you are and where you come from, and how you're kind of tied into this industry?
Awesome, thanks, James. Yeah, again, thanks for having us. It's pretty cool to be interviewing about a new show that we've got. I'm in the Toronto area, originally from New Jersey, so I've dual citizenship, but that's where I'm at. Not too late here right now. I've been an animator for 15 years now, working in television and film. And yeah, about 4 years ago now, I started game design, and I designed a game called Fossilis. And that got put out by Kids Table Board Game, did really well on Kickstarter. And when we were doing the Kickstarter, I offered my services. I said, hey, I want to do something for the Kickstarter. Can I, they already had someone doing the video. So I said, can I make some GIFs for you? Mm-hmm. And I got two buddies who helped me out with it. And that kind of started the ball rolling with thinking, hey, maybe I can make this a side business. And that's where Mesa Game Lab grew out of. So it's me and myself, my buddies Noah Conti and Marcus Kirk as well. So it's the three of us doing all the work.
So there's two things I want to cover off here. One,
sure.
That campaign did, I believe, about $250,000. So it wasn't a small campaign, right? So you're a little modest with, I was working on this game called Fossilis. It was this little game, this little thing we were working on. It was a very big campaign. So congratulations on that. That is
thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, it blew our minds how well it did.
Yeah, it's a great game.
And the second question is, I need you guys to help us with this debate. Is it GIFs or is it GIFs?
I say GIF.
What's
I
the
think
vote?
in the last episode I said both words 5 times. So
Did you?
yeah.
Potatoes.
It is potato because I think I've read that the creator calls them GIFs, but then he's fine with GIFs, and by the word what it's called, it starts with a hard G.
Right. Graphic something. Right?
Yeah, graphic. So for me, it's GIF.
That's awesome. And we're not too far from each other. I'm actually just north of Toronto, so it's cool to talk with another Canuck.
Absolutely.
All right, George, tell us about who you are, where you're coming from in your company.
Thanks, James, again, also for having us. Honored to be here. Another Canadian here, even though I grew up in Greece.
Nice.
I'm George. I'm in Calgary, and I run Oniro, and it's a Greek word, actually. That means dream, and I've always been fascinated by that word. My background is filmmaking. The joke I like to say, or the story I suppose I like to share, is that when I was like 10 years old or so, my first ever movie was in Greece. I had stolen my dad's camera, and it was starring my mother as the murderer, and she killed all my friends. So nobody's ever going to see that. But it was a fascination I had with movies ever since I was growing up, and I was, making stuff. And I started, I would say about 20 years ago or so, starting to make videos where I would actually be able to charge money. And slowly but surely, I grew my production studio, Lucid Light Studios. And I always love game. I've always had a fascination with board games and video games. I'm a big geek, as you probably can tell. Yeah. And so being able to combine the two passions about 4 years ago, where I did some stuff for Roxley Games. Some of it was just for free because I love their games so much, and they're also here in Calgary. And then I started doing things on the side. And then I would say fate came into play here 1.5 years ago, where I lost my day job. And I decided that, you know what, I am never working for anyone else again. I'm going to take Oniro full time. And yeah, for I guess almost 2 years in October, been doing this full time. And I've had the immense pleasure of working with, as you know, the industry is full of incredibly nice people, and everyone wants to help each other. And I have met incredible people. I've worked with incredible games and publishers, and I couldn't be more grateful. And today brought me to this, which is awesome. So
it's cool when I see 3 people who have, and it is important to go through that so people can understand you guys each have your own companies, right? You're separate entities that have come together to do this really cool thing. But being competitors, and as you mentioned, this industry, we often coin the term, which I can't take credit for. I first heard it from Chandler Copenhaver from CrowdOx, who's now with BackerKit, was co-opetition. Right, co-opetition. So you've got all these competitors that are technically competing, but they're trying to help each other, right? And help each other out and encourage each other. And really, we're all trying to get the whole industry to kind of to grow and rise. Because if we can make that pizza bigger, then everyone's slice is going to grow at the same time. So how did the 3 of you guys connect, though? How did that all work out?
I think it started.
David, you answer that.
Yeah. I know George and I were casually talking on Facebook. I don't remember if it was you or I who reached out to each other first, but I remember one of the first times I kind of said like, oh, it'd be, I've been thinking, I've wanted to reach out to you to, see if we could do some sort of video together, talk about Kickstarter videos. Cause there's a lot of shows that talk about Kickstarter campaigns and review them, say if they're going to back them or whatever, but they always seem to skip the video. Or not really talk about it too much. So and then he kind of said, I was thinking along the same lines, and we both thought of Ori as well as like someone who we could ask to come in. So it's kind of like we were on the same wavelength about it.
And you know what, James, my thing that's always been true for any businesses that I've started or done is like, do the thing that scares you. And a lot of people were very, I'm surprised that I reached out. And actually, David, I think I reached out to you and to Ori, because I have this thing where I always do this, where I found all these quote unquote competitors, but I was so in love with their work and your guys' work that I had to reach out. Even though it scared me, I'm like, what are people going to think? Am I trying to steal ideas, whatever? But it was the best thing that I could ever do. I love what our friendship has developed. I've had so much support by these guys. They're amazing. And also it just helps me improve just, seeing how well everybody's doing. And obviously the show was a good result of that. So, but yeah, I mean, I had a few people I reached out to that weren't too sure about it, I have to say. But yeah, these 2 guys were amazing about it. And yeah, I love you guys.
I think I reached out to you first, and you sort of popped like, I'm so happy you talked to me. I've been wanting to talk.
Now.
It was like, shouting in the void, and I think we talked until, for me, it was like 2 in the morning, and
Yes.
you know, it was just like an office buddy all of a sudden,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you know, it's the only thing I miss from a day job is having
Oh, yeah.
office buddies and people
Yeah.
to talk to. So I'm just here in my house.
But it's also,
So-
I think we knew we all had the same thing in common, right? We had the job, the animation, and we
board
obviously
games.
love board games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Which was hard to find in the industry. You know, I joined all these groups and I started to try to, you know, post a comment about, you know, the videos that I was working on or other people were working on, but you know, I was not doing reviews, or I was not doing, so I didn't fit with that crowd as much. So anyway, so yeah, I found my family, I think, and that's why it worked so well.
Is it fair to say, because you guys all have different styles and backgrounds, so you know, everything from film to photography to, you know, animation. What's something, for instance, George, that you've learned from the other two since you've kind of connected with them?
Ways to do things faster. I remember explaining, maybe even in the last episode, I don't know, I don't remember, we have so many conversations where I would do certain things because I was just learning. You know, with COVID, when it hit, I wanted to expand the business, for example, and I started learning 3D just a year and a half ago or so. So I would just, you know, roll dice in 3D as if you would roll them in real life. I had no idea that you can actually flip, you know, the 3D model to a point where, you know, where you want it to, for the result you want to get. So imagine the times that I wasted. So things like that, like
you just keep rolling until you got the right number.
Like digital dice, like he would use dynamics.
Yeah,
it's called dynamics.
And how many did you say? Like 6 dice. He had 6-sided dice, which had to fall on the same face.
Oh boy.
That is a good example of things that, you know, that somebody would maybe complain about an issue they're having in Blender or whatever software, and the other person would be like, actually, I've discovered this, and it's so wonderful to be able to do that.
Yeah. What about you, Ori? Is there anything that you've learned from the other two guys?
Wow. Okay. So one of the things I've been chasing ever since I also got into 3D like 1.5 years and 2 years ago, was I saw videos, a video by John Meatling, which we talked about in the previous episode, which the cards had actual linen texture on them. And seeing that just blew my mind, because I was only 2D animating until then.
Yeah. And
also George had these, and I would start bugging him slowly. How do you get those textures? And he was being, you know, teasing me about it, giving me some sort of clues and tweaks and stuff like that. And eventually, you know, I managed to find, you know, the perfect recipe, which I liked.
Yeah.
But George really helped me along with that, and also tons of little tiny tricks, which I would have never thought about without, you know, doing like a lot more videos. Like, you know, just having a pile of cards. So you would think in animation, you would just pile them on top of each other. But no, that's not realistic. Cards would always be tilted a little.
Yeah.
So George said, yeah, you just put in a randomizer on the tilt, and then it looks real. There's just one button, you click it, and all the cards move a little, and all of a sudden that's photorealistic. So it's tons of tiny, tiny, tiny things.
That's cool. And David, what about you? What's something you've learned from the other guys?
Technically wise, it's hard because I'm the one guy out who doesn't use Blender. These Blender guys, I've used Maya my entire career, so I'm doing that. So, but just being able to bounce ideas off each other, and then also seeing their finished products, and you know, getting ideas off of that, and just other ways to be, oh yeah, I could incorporate that, or you know, not just them, just seeing other good examples on Kickstarter. Like our last show, we talked about Shelfie Stacker and the way the guy moved the camera and would go in and out with the depth. I was like, oh, I gotta start doing that in some of my videos, because I hadn't been playing with the depth.
And there was another one I think you guys commented on where it might have been episode 1 or 2, where there's the box. So the whole environment is kind of moving, and then when you realize as it zooms in, you're actually in the cover of the box, and it's all.
So that was the Fall of the Mountain King.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And, you know, and each week we discover new amazing videos that come out, either from each other where we get inspired. It's one of those things. It's just a never ending cycle of improvement and excitement and inspiration. You know, like even when one of us does something, we're so happy for that person, and excited to ask how they did it. But similarly, when each of us discovers a new video that someone else made, we want to meet that person or have them as a guest now, and just because, we're always so excited about, where this industry is headed, and, the quality of these videos gets better and better. And it's also kind of scary because then we have to kind of meet that demand.
You got to up your game. Yeah,
It's
in one of your videos, I also, actually, you might even mention it both. It keeps coming up where you'll watch a video and then you'll say, well, who did that? Who did that video? And in some cases, there is no answer. They haven't published who actually made the video. Why is that? Why do you think that is, that there's a certain percentage of the Kickstarter videos out there where the works has been amazing work that's been done, yet the credit isn't given to the person that did that?
It's literally one of the missions we discovered as we started creating the show, where we're looking at, Kickstarters we love, and we just can't find that information. So I don't know why that is, but like you said, you mentioned that a lot of artists before our talk before, he said a lot of artists are very shy about talking about their work, and they're very, they're very humble, let's say. So even if they don't, just from absent-mindedness, the creator won't post credit, the artist won't reach out and demand it.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that maybe we can raise awareness and have also those people over and interview them, and just raise this side of Kickstarters that is sometimes overlooked.
Yeah, it'd be good to kind of normalize creators putting us in their team, and we always ask. Even sometimes, can we put our logo at the end of the video?
Yeah.
But at least let it give us the name of the person who does the great work on the, they're such a big part of they're the first thing people see, other than the image you click on. Everybody watches the video right away.
So tell us a little bit about this show you guys have created. Now, you're only 2 episodes in. I can't wait to see the next one. How frequently are you going to do episodes? Kind of what's the plan for the show as you kind of move along here?
So I think right now we did 2 in 2 weeks. We took a break this week, so we're thinking on average probably 2-3 times a month. I think right now we just have the Tabletop Animator React, but before the show you were asking us, do you plan on doing anything where you look at your own work? And that's another idea we have, and that might even be the next show we record. Probably call it Tabletop Animators Create, and we'll look at the videos we're working on and hopefully get a little more, behind the scenes, and possibly put together, some ways to show the process, that's what I'm always big about. And even on my website, I had a commissioned a whole infographic on the process, just to visualize all the steps, because it's a lot of work to go from, a script to that final rendered image that you see.
How many?
Okay, like I said, it was really humble. It's a really cool graphic. It's like a video game, like Mario, and it just goes down, and it goes through all the levels, and there's it's amazing. Go check it out.
Certainly on brand, I'm sure. How many hours goes? So if I take a 1-minute video, right, and if you guys are responsible for producing that video in its entirety, how many hours are we talking about to do a 1-minute video?
It's I can take
more
that.
information.
I was gonna say it'll depend on the video. However, a lot of people are surprised with how long this actually takes, because especially if we're involved, a lot of the times, we look at a client's game or even history of games. We want to make sure that we have an understanding by the end of it, to feel like we're part of their team. Because how am I going to advertise something that you have created, put blood, sweat, tears into it? How do I make justice of that? So a lot of the initial time is spent in getting to know the client. What are they hoping to see? What's the game about? Even playing the game sometimes early on helps. But then, a lot of clients don't come to us with a script. Some do. So a lot of the pre-production time is spent figuring out the script itself, then going out and finding the right voice actor to perform the script. And in the meantime, I have a checklist that customers are using to provide us with all the necessary artwork and things to come in. A lot of time is spent there. Usually, sometimes, if we don't get things with layers or things that we might need. And then if it is a 3D, because I do live action as well, so there's a little bit of a different process.
Yep.
But if it is a 3D animation with 2D animation, we need to then, create all the assets in 3D. And so, yeah, I mean, for us personally, it could take anywhere from a week to 3 weeks, depending on, the complexity or length of the video.
Yeah, I'd say at minimum, it's like 40 hours of work.
Yeah.
Up for kind of the simpler videos.
Yep.
To 80 or more on the really kind of eye-popping ones that we've all done.
Actually, that surprised me.
We can fit it into schedule because it is 40 hours, but there is so many other projects, and you need to find the time to fit it in.
Yeah.
And honestly, I definitely put more hours than we tend to estimate for.
Yeah. Yeah, I would assumed it was months for some of these videos. I mean, they are the level of animation that is done, and I'm sure you guys have figured out shortcuts and ways to speed things up, but having dabbled, I can't imagine how long it would take to create one of these videos. Another question, which you guys know is coming, which a lot of our listeners would probably ask, and certainly a lot of the publishers, is what kind of range can people expect for kind of like a simple video versus kind of like your typical average video to something that's like kind of on the high end premium side? And I'm asking this question from the perspective of, I think a lot of publishers out there, a lot of developers might not even approach animators to do their videos because they're afraid that it's going to be way too costly or it's going to be way out of reach, and they don't want to get in an uncomfortable conversation with an animator over kind of rates and so forth. So sometimes they just say, I'll find another way around. Is it a fair question to ask, and how would you guys answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our pricing is on our website for everyone to see. As we joked about earlier, people still ask, which is totally fair. I think for me, and I know, David, you can pop in anytime here. We talked about this a lot, especially at the beginning, because our backgrounds come from, from film industry and doing commercials, doing any kind of video work, whether it's animation or live action, the costs are completely different, So to answer your question, I mean, it depends on length, of course, but a Kickstarter video, for example, runs anywhere from, 2,000 Canadian to 4,000 Canadian, depending on, again, length. And for me, I have been approached so many times, I'm sure the guys have too, by first-time designers. And they right away say, thank you so much for your time. This is beyond my budget, which is completely understandable. And early on in my career, I've really wanted to help certain guys who have especially been so passionate about their game, and I want to help. But now that the company is full-time, I'm not as able to do that as often as I would like. And I mean, for us, we've also developed a subscription service for publishers who have a lot of things coming out, and there's a lot of discounts involved in that. But there's also that commitment with a publisher, and we create this relationship. They know what to expect. So we try to find ways to help publishers save some money, but at the same time, there is a realistic cost that's involved in all of this. It's not unlike printing a game, like that the factory needs, and they have the certain requirements for cost. And I try to explain that to people too. And this is one of those things, we can always, undervalue certain, work or hours that we put into it. But like you said earlier, these things do take a lot of time and effort.
Yeah. Ori, what would you say is the best way a client can brief you on a game? How best do they do that?
Well, George did mention earlier that compared to like high-tech companies or other commercials and stuff like that, you can actually sit down and play the game. And that's fun. I'm playing a game and it's for work, so no one disturb me. This is part of my job. But yeah, if not playing the game, then at least like looking through the rule book and looking through the graphics. And sometimes, we did mention this in the show, most videos, Kickstarter videos, have these two sides to them. One is what we call the flavor, okay, and that's the theme of the world, zombies or dinosaurs or teacups or whatever. And then there is the rules and the gameplay and how does it play. And the object of the video is never to teach the rules. It's not a how to play video. How to play videos should be much, much, much simpler. This is just to get them to scroll down. Okay, it's just to get them hyped. And the most important thing is to emote an emotional experience. Because why do we play games? We play games because it gives us this emotional experience of being in front of people, and the fun and the excitement and the tension. And depending which game it is, that's the emotion we want to the video to get out of the viewer. So
should there's
yeah,
I was gonna say, should there still be flavors in there though of what the game is at least about? Because I know from my perspective, when I watch a Kickstarter video and I see this great animation and great story, and I'm watching it for like a minute and I'm like, what the hell is this game about? Like, this is a great story, but it's telling me nothing about the game.
Actually, I saw one like that recently where it was all story, and they had game stuff in there, but there was no voiceover. The voiceover was all story. I couldn't tell what the game was about. And I think it always needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance.
What do you think?
Balance is the key word.
George, what do you think?
I was just going to add to the fact that, and I think we also brought that up in the episode too, is it really depends on the project. It really depends on the game. And one of the biggest questions I ask the clients is, who's your target audience? What are the kinds of gamers you're going after? What are the backers? I'm a lot of different types of backer myself. I sometimes back something because one component stood out to me and I have to have it. I don't even know what the game's about. But there are other times that I back a game because I love the experience that it's telling me it's going to provide me and my friends. And it's about the game mechanics, or it's about, it's a style of game that I like. So I think, we were talking about Paris in the last episode, for example, and I felt that it was okay in that one to include a little bit more of the rules because it was targeting a specific audience, that was maybe perhaps more interested in the gameplay. And I think, as the guys talked, when you have these meetings with your clients, that is when you figure all of that out and find what's the best way to tell the story. Because I think we're all so passionate about games, but we're also very passionate about storytelling. But ultimately, we want them to succeed. And so what is the best route is, I think when a client comes without a script, I at least ask them, I want an outline, because your game the best. You know what the hook is. You know what you want your backers to see. So at least give me an outline, and then I can kind of build the video around that, just to make sure I'm showing what you want to show.
Do you storyboard?
I just want to.
Go ahead, Rory.
If they have my clients, if it's even hard for them to do that brief, which David mentioned, I just tell them just shoot out on the page what excites you the most about your game. And there you get to the core of the game, and you expand that into the video, and you find all the things that connect to that.
You were going to ask about storyboard?
Yeah, I was going to ask about storyboards. So when you go back to the client, before you obviously want to start animating anything, you want to make sure you're aligned with the client. What's your approach? Do you storyboard it out, or do you bring them like samples of, here's some other videos what other people have done, and we're going to kind of do it like that? Like how do you map that out for the client?
For me, I think that's one part of the kind of general pipeline of animation that I don't include, because it's very time, laborious. It takes a long time to draw those boards and then change them and whatever and present that. So that would add a lot of hours to the cost. So what I generally do is, we get a nice tight script, and then I'll do like a really rough 3D animation, just so they can get an idea of the flow of it, the camera with the music and the voiceover all together. And that's kind of how I like to work at the beginning.
How do you approach it, George?
For me, it's actually, again, very dependent on the client. I don't have the structured process that David does. A lot of the times comes to trust. The client says, I want something like this that you've done before. And I'm like, I can do better. And then it just happens. And then they're surprised. But I'm kidding. There's certain clients which we have gone into a lot more detail. There is not only, a visual script that goes with everything that's being said. There's even, reference images and things. And a lot of the clients are open to that, which is very exciting also. Sometimes that back and forth really helps, have some of those surprises. The magic that is in that sometimes comes out because of that. But other clients, they really don't know that world at all. And they're like, we trust you fully. And both sides are great, so we try to, so it really is adaptable.
So the challenge sometimes with the surprise me approach, for an agency, right, is you create what you think is amazing work, and the client sees it and they're like, yeah, this isn't what I had kind of in my mind. Have you ever had a situation like that where you've created something that you just think, oh, this is gonna be awesome, and then they get it and they're like, yeah, I was kind of thinking we're gonna go the other way, not this way.
Not in the board game industry.
Thankfully, no. I was gonna say I was very lucky.
I haven't had that.
Knock on wood.
You're lucky. Or
and again, I think that's in our structure, at least. Like I said, I give them a rough version, and that's where they can give me their notes. After that, then you need to give me much smaller notes, because you can't, once we're already past that, you can't give me big, oh, I want this all different, because
So it's baked at that point, I guess, is it?
Yeah.
I can give an example of something crazy I did.
Before you do that, tell me your process. I want to know what your process, Orion, is. It different from the other two guys?
Storyboarding?
Or just approaching
I'm similar to George, where it's sort of, I like to surprise my clients. I don't have the storyboarding much because, with other animation videos, you need to create the art. You need to show them the visual style. Here, it's a board game which the visual style exists.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really need to create something new. You just need to show how you manipulate. So usually the most concrete thing I show my clients first is like 30 seconds of final video. Before rough animation, I just do final animation. I show, if it's a 3D video, I show the environment before, but I really let them feel the flow of the video, like for full 30 seconds, which could also be used as an ad for their campaign. But in a project I just finished for Maximum Apocalypse, I had this final shot where it sort of zooms out and you see the board. And I was like, that's a little boring. I mean, game is about a post-apocalypse with zombies. Let's do something fun. And I just put in characters running and crushing the board game, and zombies chasing them and them shooting, and just blood spatters all over the floor. And it was not in the script. I didn't tell him about it. I just sent the file, and he got it. He's like, that's awesome, approved. So I took the risk. It took me a whole day to do, but it was worth it.
I guess part of the benefit you have is that most games, when they're getting ready to launch, it's a finished game, right? So they already have a theme they've already set up. They've already got kind of the basic story of the game set up. The mechanics are set up. So there is a bit of a sandbox kind of established for you to kind of play in, I guess, versus kind of coming in with a blank piece of paper, right? So maybe that's why your luck has been, you're running at 100% right now on the luck factor with people being happy.
And you know what, James? One thing I love more than getting paid for the project, and it really stems from doing videos in the past for clients, but I did 4 years in the wedding industry, and just that surprise moment when you reveal the wedding film to the couple, and sometimes it's been a year since then, that emotion that comes, I want that for the clients in the board game industry. And I recently shared a post about a client who got emotional when they saw the video. So I'm being selfish sometimes on this aspect where I just don't want to show anything just to get that response,
exactly.
And so sometimes it just gets, and they put so much work into their games, and for some that's the first time the game comes alive. And and we have so much of that responsibility that we share to make sure that anyway, I just take so much pride in that, and I always look forward to that moment of that feedback. And and sometimes there's changes, and that's great. But it's just that first viewing that I'm excited about.
Certainly, I think when I look at each of your portfolios, you can tell that you guys care, and you can tell that you guys are passionate about this business. For me, I think this is an area that is probably underappreciated. And I think what this new channel that you guys have created, this new show, is going to help people do is going to help them appreciate, right, the things that are underappreciated. Maybe it'll help highlight some professionals out there that are maybe not being highlighted right now by showcasing their work. And I just think what you guys are doing here is just awesome. And I'm so glad that you guys came on this podcast. I want to wish you all the best for this coming year, and please stay in touch. And if anybody wants to reach out to you guys, we showcased all 3 websites on our at the beginning of this. I'm going to put them in the show notes as well. And if people want to reach out to any of you guys, just simply do it through, I guess, the contact form on your websites.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for doing that, James.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you, guys, and have a great year. You take care.
Thanks
for having us.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
All right, cheers.
It's been amazing.
Bye.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply join the Facebook group Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.